Hello. So I'm looking to press these apples here. There's a mix of apples here, and it's clouded over a bit, so I'm just worried that it might come on to rain. So I thought I'd perhaps delay and just see what happens. And it's actually easier to film the colours of the apples when it's a bit more cloudy. The light doesn't blind the camera so much. And the variety that I want to talk about today is quite difficult to photograph. It doesn't really come out that well, and it may not come out that well on this, I'm not sure. So the one that I'm talking about today is called Yarlington Mill. It's this one here. So it's got like a pink kind of flush. So it's a snouty kind of shape with a yellow background and then this flecked flush. And on the tree it appears quite pink, but it might well turn out looking quite red here. They look quite a lot like Tremlett's bitter, which I've made a video about before, Trimmies, in that they've got this snouty shape with the pinched up tight nose, but they're not as red. Then the red is not as like a dark deep red. It's a more yellowy pinky kind of flush, and they're a later season apple. So the Tremletts are early, so you're talking sort of September, October, and we're November now. So these apples are, I would say, late October, early November. Well, in this part of the world anyway. So they're a Somerset apple. So bred in Yarlington, I guess. Yarlington Mill. There is a story that it was found growing in the tailings of a cider mill. So that is where the spent pomace comes out of the mill. They found a seedling. That's a different one there. They found a seedling growing up in the brickwork. I think it was the son of the mill owner, but don't quote me on that. And they planted it in the garden, and then some years later the fruit came and they realised that it was good for cider making. And of course, having grown up in the brickwork, it was a pretty like vigorous, kind of strong, healthy tree. So it's a bit of a trooper, I guess. It's one of the classic Somerset bittersweets, I would say. I know cider makers, it's grown a lot in Devon and around the Exeter area, and I know cider makers that have won awards with cider made using this apple, or predominantly this apple. You can make a single variety cider with it, but I prefer to mix in, so some of these others, I won't tell you what they are, but you may be able to work it out from other videos I've got. But yeah, I like to blend them in with other bits and bobs because, well, one of the reasons I like to blend them is actually when they get a bit overripe, they go quite sloppy. They're more almost like a pear. So I like to I've got a sort of firmer apple here, which I like to mix in with them so that when I press them, it doesn't like squish everywhere. You get, if the apples are too sloppy, you get kind of bits kind of squirt out from the press, and then it's like the cleaning is a bit of a nightmare. So yeah, I tend to mix them in with others, but they're a very good apple. So one of the classic Somerset bittersweet cider apples. I think I also mentioned as well, there was a chap called Harry Masters, and I think he was involved he was a nursery owner, and this apple was brought to his attention, and he kind of like propagated it and popularized it, I guess. So I guess I should mention that. What else can I say about it? So on older trees, you get kind of smaller fruit. So don't be too fooled. You get and this one's sort of a rounder shape, so sometimes the shape is not quite so conical or like elongated almost. But this is kind of the classic shape, and on younger trees you'll get quite big apples. So yeah, I would say it's a medium-sized apple normally, but you can get on older trees. Here's one that's, you know, they're quite small on trees that are struggling a bit. The stem, let's just talk about the stem. So it's quite twiggy, you've got a little bit of russet around there. Let's have a look at another one. So it tends to be like an angled, not especially distinctive kind of stem. Bruises easily. You get scab. I've got one here. Yeah, you get this kind of thing where this is where like two fruits were together and were kind of rubbing each other. So it tends to the branches get quite heavily laden and sort of pulled. So it's similar to tremlets in that way. Okay, I think that's everything. Bye.